I was playing Illusion of Gaia recently, a Super Nintendo classic, as it had occurred to me that I'd never beaten it. I always get to a certain point and drop off, but I wanted to stick it through this time, really try to understand why it's held in such high regard. So I pushed forth, clocked the game, and didn't come out the other side feeling too different. It's a comfy experience where you purge enemies from obstacle-filled maps to get permanent power-ups and fight occasionally challenging bosses with just enough narrative to string it all together. Said string poses questions of existence and rapid evolution through undersold dialogue, yet rightfully never answers them. It gives the player enough to prompt profound introspection without overt direction. Overall, I'd say it deserves the reputation, not for the combat or the narrative itself, but for the rate at which both progress. While a little slow to start as you potter around the protagonist's hometown with a band of chummy chums, it rapidly escalates as you're propelled through the story with little time to stop and take it all in. In the span of 10 minutes, you get home invaded by a princess, captured by a king, broken out by a pig, turned into a bulky dark knight in some temporal plane of existence, and it refuses to slow down. I rarely feel whiplash from progression, and when I do, it reminds me that I'm old. Ah, shit, I've done it again. Illusion of Gaia's story is so simple and borderline nonsensical that the rate at which you're ejected from beat to beat is something you've got to experience to fully comprehend. I can tell you about it, and you can hear what I'm saying, but unless you've played it, you'll think I'm being hyperbolic. There's absolutely no time nor incentive to chill, because outside of a few missables, the story is a straight shot to the end with very little in its path. You enter a town, talk to one guy, fly across the world, clear a short dungeon or two, and that is basically the entire experience. The gameplay is rudimentary. You hit things and solve basic puzzles. I wouldn't call it an RPG necessarily, it's more of a contextually incrementing action game, where you earn preset stats from clearing maps of foes and are given transformations as required. There's no experience, barely an inventory, and you just gotta smack shit and not die, though I guess that describes most games. Mechanics are introduced on the fly and are rarely front-loaded. Like, if the game's telling you some shit, it's because you need to use it right now and not in 2 hours, because the game will be over. Stat increments are powerful, as every attack upgrade is evident and extra health and defense are always welcome, with exchange values being so low that 1 point makes a genuine difference. The loop is simple, condensed, and overall enjoyable, in large part due to the brakes being cut. The beauty of having rapid fire pace is that you can sprinkle some missables and make the player hate themselves, but only if they use the guide, otherwise how do they know they missed something? Ah, fucking got ya, you cheating bastards. It's rare to see a game in this style be so focused on forward momentum, almost to its detriment. I say almost because it burned a fire in me that I hadn't felt toward games in a long time. I became inspired by the idea of narrative and event momentum and what that could do for a game which is otherwise fairly unremarkable. It's a good game, don't get me wrong, but without that blistering delivery, it would feel hollow in a way, like space was created for nothing to exist between. When I think of the most memorable pieces of media I've ever witnessed, there's always a special place in my memory, a fond place for things that are so to the point they almost undermine their own flow, but that absence gives them a unique gift. The gift of not overstaying their welcome. That's not to dunk on the epics. I'm a JRPG guy, I dig shit like One Piece, so I'm fine with the concept of perpetual media. Speaking of One Piece RPGs, I had the opposite phenomenon occur recently with One Piece Odyssey, the hottest new game. You see, its strengths lie in its stopping power. I know it's the early game plague of modern titles, but every time I'd walk forward in the opening minutes, I'd be stopped and told explicitly how to act. One Piece Odyssey released in... Oh, okay. Yep, I see that. Okay, great, thanks. One Piece Odyssey released in 2023, and being a JRPG, I was Again. Were you stopping me again? Alright, yep, save point. Okay, let's try again. One Piece Odyssey released in 2023, and being a JRPG... Are you fucking kidding me? What irks me about One Piece is that it's a world you want to explore of your own volition, so being stopped and dragged through so many moments that rip control from you is the exact opposite of what a fucking super-powered pirate game should be. I don't know if it gets better after the first 30 minutes or so, I've never made it that far. The hand-holding instantly overstays its welcome. There was fat to cut, and I'm positive there's other shit to complain about, but if you don't respect my time or intelligence in your opening act, you're not gonna do it for the rest of the experience, so I'm gonna assume the whole thing's fat, and cut it. Flip back to The Illusion of Gaia, a game which feels rushed, but equally feels like the exact length it should be. Like the developers recognized what wasn't worth lingering on, taking executive action to minimize those elements, staying focused on what's important, which is, usually the gameplay for video games, not fucking text pop-ups reminding you that you have eyeballs. I think Conan O'Brien said it best.
Yes, trim the fat, but also sometimes cut into the muscle. And if you're losing something for time that you really love, but you love that other stuff more, you're in great territory, and this thing is really going to fly.
Yeah.
While the core elements and all relevant pieces are there, they don't waddle, they sprint. The goal is the focus, which is largely delivered through gameplay. The muscle's been cut, and with minimal filler, what you're left with is a rich, dense experience that feels satisfying to move through. This isn't strictly about duration either. While Illusion of Gaia was the perfect length, a slightly more complex game could present a similar pace over an extended duration and still feel like the perfect amount of time. There is space to slow down, explore, and headcanon lore build, but you're not imprisoned by it. It allows you to do it on your own time and only rips control from you when that time is earned. Gaia would be definitively worse with more, as it existed fine without it, therefore it is unnecessary. You know, that said, a couple extra healing herbs might have been nice. It doesn't rely on a patterned micro-addiction, a scheduled constant to keep you wanting more. It stays for as long as it needs to say whatever it wanted to say, and it disappears. You had fun, and it was a good time. Bye!
you